me, I just like to make him a shot more attractive, give him a nickel more bone, and same thing with the young ladies hog. I'd like to see this guy with a little more substance of bone and width at the ground for as much volume and power that he has up high. I think that guy's definitely efficient at the feed pan, and young man did a great job getting his bear presented. He is more appropriate in terms of that body condition and a little more freshness through the top side of his skeleton, but for me, he's just the narrowest made bear of the group. Like to thicken him up from behind. Job well done. Let's give him one more big round of applause.
Kylie Weber, your first place exhibitor. Second to Blake Belter. Third to Lucas Ludwig. Fourth to Leanne Ludwig. And fifth to Lucas Ludwig.
A really elite class of Berkshire Bears, and I wanted to take time and give the young man's bear there in second some time so I could genuinely analyze him. And I think seeing all of that and putting them together, the young man's bear here in the center of the ring just puts, again, the most positives together. Right there's that look. He's just maybe not the most of anything, but he has plenty of everything. When you get on top of him, he's so opened up on the upper side of his skeleton and opens up into such a full stout rib and full through that rear flank. And then when you get in front of him, he's squaring his chest floor and squaring his hot going away. That's just a really nice Berkshire bear that puts a lot of pieces together. Man, I want to like this bear here in second because that guy has ginormous legs. And if we were going to single trait one, that's the one that I would tie a hold of just because his bone and his feature and his density I love. But again, not only is he just wanting to fight and it's hard to get a good look, but when he does fight, he gets a little lower fronted, a little plainer through that head and neck, and then breaks behind the backside of his blade. I think if that guy would just get out and cruise, it might be a different story. Really lean-made, fresh, expressive Barrow here in third of the young man's. One that you just like in terms of that body condition and back shape. For me, I just need to make him a little more correct in that hock all the way down to the ground. Relax him in that front shoulder blade. We fix those few structure things, and I think his muscle will advance him. Young lady just does an adorable job here, rounding out the class with a very nice, productive type of a Barrow that's wide in his chest floor, but then when you get on top of him, he just doesn't have the same amount of muscle shape and power as those above him. One more time, let's give him a big round of applause.
Abram Spear, your first place exhibitor. Bentley Ertles in second. Third to Bryce Eckstein, and fourth to Leslie Ludwig.
A really nice Berkshire Bear class again here to kind of wind out the breed. I think the young man's bear again just checks all those boxes. He's opened up in his lower skeleton, which leads to more width and natural ability up high, but yet still being appropriate and comfortable in terms of his structural skeleton down below and his body freshness and condition. I think that one's just the one that puts the most positives together in the best built, most correct package. I really like the stoutness of the young man's bear here in second. That guy is big-legged and square from behind. It's that head and neck, and he gets a little too chunky through that front 1/3, maybe gets a little lower in his front end, but I like the bulk, the power, the mass that he comes with. The young man, or the young lady's gilt that's going to be, young lady's Barrow that's going to be here in third, he wants to come in at his knee as he comes at you and get a little steeper in his hip, but from the side, that's a deep-bodied, really productive type of a hog who's growthy in his type and kind, and the young lady's done a nice job with them, and our very well-presented, really good skin and hair Barrow right here is going to round out the class. Again, one that you like from that depth of body, the practical width, the true natural muscle width and dimension that he has. Just structurally, he's not as sound as some of those above him. I think we fix a few feet and leg things. That guy's natural width will sort him up. Job well done. Let's give all of them a big round of applause.
Your first place exhibitor, Bentley Ertl. Second to Hunter Meyer. Third to Josie Firkinoff and Levi Ludwig in fourth.
here for Champion Berkshire Barrow Drive. I think it's awfully close, and there's some decisions to be made. And you know, it doesn't bother me that the young man's bear is not really wanting to drive. I got a good look at him in class and got a good look at him over there. And I think there's some give and take between both of these bears that we have out here. I think one just came out of a really tough class where it was a tough decision. I think he's maybe just a tick better in the angle of his shoulder and his design and pattern from the profile. Young man here in the red shirt's going to be driving your Champion Berkshire Barrow.
Abram Spear is your Champion Berkshire exhibitor.
I think that decision was pretty close there in the Champion Berkshire Drive, and some might like this bear just a little bit better in terms of its overall size and body capacity, but no doubt in my mind, young man's heavyweight bear is going to follow up as your reserve Champion Berkshire.
Bentley Ertl is your reserve Champion Berkshire exhibitor.
top pair that we have here in the Duroc Barrow show, and I think both of them have pros and cons. So I know that there's some things that the one in second's going to have that the one that wins doesn't, and vice versa. So I'm just going to go with the one that fits my fancy, and that's going to be the young lady's darker Barrow here is going to win your class. It boils down to structural integrity, and I think that's the Barrow that takes the longest reach, the longest stride, that's the best built in his shoulder and blade, and right there's the look as he comes at you, and he's so genuine and square in his chest floor and opened up, and he's just a most attractive from the profile, laying his chine bone down deeper. I know he doesn't have that freshness and muscle shape down his back that ideally I'd like to have. And maybe the young man's Barrow is just a little more descript there, but then when you get right on top of him, he too kind of rolls over that portion of his loin edge while being a little higher in his chine and just a little straighter in his hock to the ground. But that's a big made Barrow that's super stout and stout in his upper hip all the way down to his lower stifle. And if this is the hog that you like to win the class, again, just let the young man know, because that's a very, very nice made Barrow. Young man's hog coming out here in third is one that has so many good pieces. He as well is fresh in his body condition, wide down his top line. When you get right behind him, that hock sets down square and genuine. It's that front end. He's a little too wide and opened up in that portion of his shoulder, wanting to get a little bulldoggy as he moves. I think we fixed that front end assembly, and that guy certainly can sort up. Young lady, your Barrow is the most unique hog I have seen in a very long while. His feet and legs are huge. I mean, ginormous. That guy has just monster foot and bone, and you want to grab a hold of him because there's so many good things. But as you can see, there's that extra fluid or swelling on those front knees, and then maybe he doesn't know how to handle and motor with his big legs that he has. That's just a tricky Barrow to know what to do with monster legs, but maybe just doesn't match that monster back up high either. And then the young lady we have rounding out the class, that's a long-bodied, long-hipped Barrow that certainly is going to rail quite a long loin eye. But for me, we just need to see him with a little more width in that chest floor and knee. We need to elevate him at the top of his shoulder, but lots of positives for that hog. One more time, let's give him a big round of applause.
Evelyn McGuire, your first place exhibitor. Carson Nobby, second. Third, Patrick Meir. Fourth, Rachel Lamping. And fifth, to Josie Firkinoff.
Let's give these kiddos a big round of applause. I think we have a nice Duroc Barrow class that kind of sorts pretty handedly and a lot of good pieces to use. And I think that this Duroc Barrow out here from his shoulder back, I mean, that guy's a monster. He is so big, square backed and opened up in his forerib all the way down to his flank with a stout upper hip that goes all the way down to a hind leg that sets square into his body wall and handles all that oomph and that extra and that bulk. I think he just puts a lot of positives together. You know, the young lady's bear here in second, he is taller at that point of his shoulder, and really when you get on top of him and study him, I mean, that guy's a man as well in terms of spread and width. He's maybe not as descript in his muscle pattern, and he's maybe just not as correct in that hind leg as the one above him, but I tell you what, there's a lot of good pieces that come together. He's flat and bold in his forearm, thick and powerful on the upside of his skeleton. Lots to be proud of that second place hog. You know, the problem bear in the class is the young man's bear here in third, because obviously this is the heavyweight, fast-growing, you know, easy-doing bear of the class. If you struggle getting hogs fed, this young man's the one to talk to, because this guy certainly has converted feed. But for as much bulk as he has up high, he doesn't match that width at the ground. He maybe tracks a little narrower coming and going than he is up high, but that's typical of those fast-growing, easy-doing hogs, but young man presented him very, very, very well. The bear we have coming out next, and I thought, you know, if you wanted to switch 4 and 5, I'm not going to blame you. I just thought this guy was a little fresher in his package. He's a little taller at his shoulder, maybe just a tick wider there, the upper portion of his hip. Just like to fix him structurally. He's a little off in his front end, a little tighter in that hind leg, but young lady did a great job. And then the bear we have rounding out the class, that's definitely a big ribbed hog, one that just easy fleshing and stout in his skull width, but again, I'd like to make him a tick more descript in his muscle pattern, maybe just give him a little more genuine bulk up high. Job well done, really fun Duroc Barrow class.
Chase Nobby, your first place exhibitor. Second, Adeline Caney. Third, Austin Rolls. Fourth, Sophie Volts. And fifth, Greg Stratton.
You know, the Duroc breed is the breed that I cherish and love the most, and you know, I'm probably going to be more picky on this breed than any of them, just because I know what it takes to put them together, and it's not easy, and it's hard because when you chase some pieces, you sacrifice others. And for me, again, we're choosing a winner between the two right in front of me, and there's one that just, man, from his shoulder back has so much power, bulk, and build, but maybe his front end just isn't as attractive and maybe isn't as desirable. And then we have the young lady's Barrow, who is maybe a little more comfortable and taller in that front shoulder, but doesn't hit me with so much bulk and mass and power. And so, you know, there's decisions to be made of which way that you want to go, and in my mind, they both need to stay together. It's just who's champion and who's reserve. For me today, I'm going to go with the bigger back bear of the young man be your champion. Young lady's going to fall up and be your reserve.
Chase Nobby, your champion Duroc exhibitor, and Evelyn McGuire, your reserve champion.
some decisions because there's not one that just jumps out and grabs a hold of me, and that's where we fall with the young man's Barrow, as he just is the best one all around. He's not the most of anything, but he has enough of everything, and quite frankly, where he does excel the class is soundness of structure. That's the soundest built, best hind leg bear of the class. I would like to see more width and muscle up high in his upper skeleton, but I think he would probably surprise you at a scan, as he is wide enough and opened up in the upper portion of his blade. Young man done a great job with just a sound structured, very complete made Hampshire Barrow. You know, the Barrow we have here in second, he is different. He is monster-legged, super stout skulled, big in his jaw. His head and neck read to be a little older than his weight range is. So in my mind, in with that shaggy hair, I wish he was bigger in his package. I think if this guy was a taller made Barrow and put all that bulk together in just a bigger outline, I think he's the one that you could tie a hold of and use. But for me, I just wanted to see him maybe a notch better built from the side, but so many intriguing pieces. You know, the Barrow we have coming out here in third, he's not traditionally marked Hampshires, but I've seen crazier things come out of this breed, and he's one as well. Has a really good look through his front end. He's tall-shouldered, definitely big-bodied. For me, he has just a little too much excess when we get there behind his sheath. He maybe just waddles a little bit in that rear flank, and I'd like to see more muscle description down his back line, but I think that's a Barrow that does balance up nice from the side, and young lady's done a good job with them. The Barrow coming out next quite simply needs to be sounder structured. He's a little straighter in his front forearm. He's a little tighter in that hog. But man, that's a fresh-backed, lean-made, very expressive-made hog that the young lady is driving. And I want to commend the young man here in fifth. Not very often do you put a kid in last place and they shake your hand and tell you thank you. And I think that's way more important, your personality and attitude, than it is where we place at any hog show. Quite frankly, his weight and his size is what put him into fifth. I think that Barrow just needs more time. He is big bone. He is square enough backed for me. He has a lot of the right pieces. Just for the market show today, we're just a little too small. But I think that one gets a notch more feet in him. He'd be awfully neat. One more time, let's give him a round of applause.
Luke Simon, your first place exhibitor. Lydia Neese second. Katie Worth third. McKenna Volts fourth. And Eli Lamping in fifth.
think we have an incredible top pair of Hampshire Barrows out here, and intentionally I haven't placed them because I want to talk them so you guys can see what I'm thinking, and then we'll say how I'm placing them. And so just in no particular order, let's talk the young ladies Barrow. I mean, that guy's monster-legged and big-boned, and when you study him, it's that type of a density that a judge just loves to have, and he's tall at his shoulder, and he's bold in his rib, and thick and wide, and he has all these things that you just love about him. But then you get right on top of him, and actually he disappoints you because he's not as square-backed, fresh-backed, or as descriptive in that muscle shape. And you want that upper portion of his body to just explode and match the lower portion of his body. And so that was my question with him. And then you have the young man's bear who simply doesn't have as much bone. And you guys can see that. He's a little thinner even through his head and neck. I mean, he's clean jowled and cool looking, but he might even be a little weaselly there through that nose. But that guy can get out and motor. He is sound structured. He gets out and moves. And actually, when you get on top of him, he does have more curvature to the upper portion of his loin. He is square and fresher on the back side of his blade. It's like the reverse of what you think you're going to get when you get on top of both of these hogs. It's the opposite. And so, you know, do I stick with bone or do I stick for freshness of muscle and structural integrity? I think my decision in this class, I'm going to sort with structure. Young man's going to be first. Young lady's going to be a very close second. And again, if you want to switch the pair, very nice job, guys. If you want to switch the pair, I'm not going to argue. Just make sure you tell that young lady that that's the hog you would have used. Young man, I think, comes in a very close third because that bear matches the second place bear very closely. From a distance, that's a tall-shouldered, long-bodied, stout-structured, big bone, wide-footed bear. He's maybe a little drier in that front forerib, maybe just a little drier in that lower portion of his flank. I'd just like to see that guy gulp 2 or 3 buckets of water and just really bloom and fill out. That's a tough bear in a very tough class. And then the young man winding out the class, again, just such a gentleman out here in the ring with a bear that's productive in his body and rib shape. He just ran into a tough class. I mean, this guy's neat in his front end. He just isn't as opened up through the lower portion of the skeleton. Job well done. Let's give them all a big round of applause.
Garrett Whitty, your first place exhibitor. Jackie Firkinoff in second, third Blake Miller, and Paul Fullenkamp in fourth. Now we'll show for your champion, Hampshire Barrow. Really 4 nice Hampshire Barrows out here, but again, just to keep things moving and not drive these hogs too long, you know, I like the bear that won the first class, but those 2 from the second class are hammers. Young man here is going to have your champion. Young lady is going to follow up as reserve. Your champion Hampshire exhibitor, and Jackie Firkinoff, your reserve champion.
here in our champion Hereford Barrow drive, just 2 entries, but ladies and gentlemen, these are 2 very high quality Barrows. Let's give both of them a big round of applause. You know, realistically, there's one that's just so good. The young man's bear right here is going to have your champion Hereford Barrow. That guy is good in so many pieces. We could probably have 100 of them driving out here. He's going to sort to the top and do so easily. Talk about all the things we've talked about: lower skeletal width, upper back shape, hip shape. He's got it all. Young man's done a great job with that barrow. Young lady's barrow here that's going to be reserved. That one is fresh and expressive and long in his loin. I like to compare to class winner. Like to see him just a little bigger bone and maybe be a little more comfortable in that front shoulder blade. But young lady's done a good job with such a high-spirited bear that she has here today. One more time, let's give him a round of applause.
Damon Spear, your champion Hereford Barrow Showman, your reserve champion Libby Stratton.
Just a single entry Poland bear that we have out here, and from the conversation with the young man, this guy's pretty strong, you would say, but no, that's one that's robust in his center body, plenty of volume and bulk through that center 1/3. Young man's done a great job with a high volumed bear that's grown well. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Briar Meir, your champion Poland exhibitor.
really great pair of spot Barrows. Let's give them both a big round of applause. Obviously, there's a little bit of a weight difference, and whenever there is, that, you know, kind of makes it easier to slight one way. And I think the heavier weight bear of the young man's kind of wins the group a little easier just because there's more of him today. He's the bigger boned hog that's wider back, that's more opened up in his chest floor. When he wants to cooperate and get his head up, he pulls it together in a really nice show bear, a package. Young lady's going to be driving your reserve spot bear, and her boots make me a little envious because they're pretty cool. And that's one that from the profile, I think he's neat in his design and his pattern. He's maybe not as durable in his hind leg set, wants to close in at his front feet just ever so slightly, but I think that's an attractive made, really fresh made bear. He just simply got outpowered today, but job well done. Let's give both of them a big round of applause.
Abram Spear, your champion spot exhibitor, reserve champion Grace Stratton.
Let's give both of these exhibitors a big round of applause. To be quite honest, this is a pair that's not as straightforward as some of our other decisions because they're very similar in their body type and build, and the differences between them are very minute and very discreet. And so for me, again, if you want to flip-flop this pair, probably not going to argue with you that much. I think there's one that's a little wider at the ground, and I think there's one that's maybe a little wider up high. And so I think there's a little bit of back and forth, but for me, I like the young man's bear to win the class. I think this guy has just a little more, nice job, a little more description over the backside of his blade and just a little more width there at his chest floor. Young lady, I love seeing you high five your competitor there because your bear is so similar. I think he is pulled apart at his blade and maybe a little more robust in the upper portion of his rib shape and maybe a notch longer body. But it's just those little itty bitty things of when you get on top of him, he's just not as descriptive in his muscle pattern. That's pretty critical on two very, very nice Tamworth Barrows.
Hughes Miller is your champion Tamworth exhibitor, your reserve champion Chloe Miller.
really great Yorkshire Bear class, and one that I think would be fun to sit ringside and kind of discuss amongst your friends and make decisions between the pros and cons of them. When you step off of them, and again, I'm just going to talk them in no order. When you step off of them, the young ladies bear here in front of me, that's the bear that looks like he's the easy class winner because he offers more substance of bone. He's bolder there in his forearm. He's more attractive in the way he ties his head and neck all the way down. He's more correct just in the assembly of his shoulder and his hind leg. But then when you come in for close inspection, he just doesn't wow you in terms of that muscle shape. He gets plainer the further you work back to his loin edge, and I just like to see more pop and power on the top side of him. But then in reverse, the young ladies bear here, that one has more pop and power when you come in for close inspection. He gives more oomph in the upper portion of his hip and lower portion of his stifle. But it's when you step off of him, he doesn't balance up as nice. He's too straight in his front shoulder, he's high in his chine, and then when he gets out on the move and you really start to study him at the ground, he does, even though those hocks set out wide, those hind legs start to funnel in ever so slightly, and so there's some give and take. I think there's a bear that just structurally puts it together better. That's going to be the young ladies white bear. He's going to win the class. Young ladies bear here is closely going to follow up in second. The bear that we have coming out next in third is a really fresh back bear. I'm sure if you see him standing over the pin, he's lean made and wide backed. For me, it's a structure thing. Like the second place hog, we just want to fix that front end. He gets a little high in his chine, a little straighter in that front shoulder, but from his blade back, that's a really fresh, nice, powerful made hog. Growthy type of a bear coming out next, obviously long-bodied and deep-bodied. I just want to see more muscle shape to this one. I'd like to see this one pulled apart with just a little more power when you get right behind him. And then the bear we have coming out next, I think this guy is wide in his shoulder set, square and big in his toe and foot size, but then as he gets out and goes, he just doesn't assemble as well in a big enough frame and big enough package for me. He's a little more moderate, a little chunkier headed bear that I just wish could be elevated in his frame size. And then the young ladies bear, it's this angle right here as he comes at you. He wants to push open in his shoulder, toe in those front feet, maybe like to just see him come better off that hind leg, but I think that's a square-made or square-backed hog with plenty of power and punch to him up high. Just want to fix those feet up front. Job well done. Let's give all of them a big round of applause.
Shaylin McGuire is your first place exhibitor. Second to Marissa Eckstein. Third, Maxwell Franklin. Fourth to Jackie Firkinoff. Fifth to Noah Hilton-Beidel. And sixth to Michaela Hilton-Beidel.
Another fun Yorkshire class. Let's give all 4 of them a big round of applause. I think we have an interesting top pair, but it's the young ladies bear again that's just checking all of those boxes. Where he excels the class is when you get right in front of him and behind him, he sets those feet down more square and genuine. He's more opened up in the lower portion of his skeleton. When you get right behind him, he has more pop and power to the upper portion of his hip and carries that all the way down genuinely at the ground. And not only can he get out and motor well, he's attractive and balanced doing that as well. Now the young man's bear here in second. I mean, this guy from his blade back is just a monster middled, big centered, big backed bear that has a lot to him. But then when you study him come at you, he's not as wide at the ground as he is up high. You get right behind him, he actually flattens in the lower portion of his stifle and just doesn't track away with as much pop and skeletal width as the young lady's bear who wins the class. The young lady who's third, I mean, that's a tall-shouldered, long-bodied bear that's going to yield a really long eye. But for me, he's not as wide and opened up for as big-framed as he is. I'd like to see more volume to match his frame size. And then the young man here in fourth, you're going to get yourself some brownie points of flattery, and he has maybe the funniest headed pig in the class. But this one just needs to balance better from the profile. He wants to break a little behind his shoulder, maybe isn't as comfortable on the move, but that's a big-footed, stout-hipped bear. Young man's done a nice job. Let's give all of them a big round of applause.
Kenzie Rolls, your first place exhibitor. Chase Nobby second. Leanne McGuire in third, and Henry Caney in fourth.
the heavyweight Yorkshire class, you know, there's decisions that have to be made because we're really elevating in those weights. But I think the young man's bear just kind of wins the class for fun. He's the one, again, that puts the best combination, full, complete package together. He's squared in the lower portion of his skeleton. It matches his width up high. He's sound in his structure. He's got enough look for the weight range that we're at. He's exhibited really well. Young man's done a nice job with just a really powerhouse bear. You know, the young man's bear here in second is the one that I just genuinely didn't know where to sort him, because for me, he's excessive in terms of his weight and where we are on the spectrum and what's acceptable, what's not. But reality is we got them all out here, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion. I think this guy is stout and big and bold, and as he tracks and goes away, he's my favorite in terms of the hock set and hip shape, and I think he has that best power look as he goes away. We're just simply out of range when it comes to overall weight. You know, if you wanted to run the young man's bear here second instead, probably not going to argue with you, because that guy does have a big chest floor and a big back shape. It's just that hind leg. He gets a little drier in the way that he drives going away. He's a little tight and straight, and then gets a little steeper and plainer in the upper portion of his hip. But I think this guy might hit me a little more acceptable in terms of weight, and I love that bone. I love the forearm. Young man's done a nice job. You know what? One of the soundest moving hogs is the one that's going to end up in fourth today of the young ladies. But when we get in front of him and get behind him, he just doesn't set those legs down square enough for me. Even though he's one of the trimmest, I don't want to call him narrow because he's not, but maybe the least wide of the class, those feet and legs just aren't genuine in the way they set down when you get right behind him. And in a tough class, that sorted him into fourth. Job well done. Let's give him a round of applause.
Your first place exhibitor, Damon Spear. Second, Blake Miller. Third is Clark Dwanger. And fourth is Sydney Rolls. Now we'll show for your champion, Yorkshire Barrow.
A fun little Yorkshire Bear drive. Let's give them all a big round of applause. Again, each of these bears have things that they excel at and things that we might change. Every hog we'll see through the ring probably will fit that build. Not seen a perfect one yet, but quite frankly, there's one that just overwhelms the drive in terms of bulk, mass, and build. Young man's Yorkshire Bear in front of me will be your champion.
Damon Spear exhibits your champion, Yorkshire.
You know, I think the decision for reserve champion is a lot closer, and nothing against the young man. That bear is just too heavyweight, and I think it narrows down between the two young ladies out here, and which one I prefer better. And again, there's justification to use each of them. For me, I'm going to pick the hog that I think just is a little more natural in its kind, has a little more genuine width down the backside. Young lady here with the braid, she's going to follow up and be a reserve champion.
Kenzie Rolls exhibits your reserve champion. The number on that peg was 367 if you need it for insurance.
in our first class of crossbred bears. I think we have a nice class that has some give and take, but the young man's bear on the far side, again, is the one that checks all the boxes, and I know he's starting to get a little overheated, and we'll want to get him cooled down in the wash rack, but that's a big square back, stout hipped bear that's opened up in his lower skeleton. We'd like to fix a few structure things about him, but this stout skull guy is just my pick and my favorite to win. The young man's bear here in second. I like this guy. He's taller in his shoulder. He's got plenty of length of body and freshness in terms of his back shape. He too isn't as great in that he's perhaps a little shorter in the length of his hip, maybe has a little bit of swelling in that back hock, and I think that's the way he just handles that back right. I was a tick uncomfortable with. I think maybe an injury or something has a little extra fluid there. We take that away. I think it becomes awfully close for him to win this class. Young man's bear that's here in third, just a complete, good, practical type of hog. For me, he didn't have enough Shazam on top. I just needed a little more power, a little more oomph, but that's just a really well-balanced, basic build type of a hog. Young lady's black-headed hog that comes out next, soggy body, deep-bodied, plenty of rib and boldness, but when you get on top of him, he's a little plainer in his back shape, maybe a little finer in his bone work, and doesn't just want to get out and grab another gear, but the young lady did a great job getting that one exhibited. You know, the interesting hog and perhaps the most memorable pig and most resilient pig of the day right here. And quite honestly, I think this guy is so good. Well, he obviously can get out and go and move, and he's square in his chest floor. I think his little crash hindered him a little bit because he got a notch shaken up and then got himself overheated, and then those feet and legs weren't going like they needed to. I think we just put a little more shape down that top, but that guy in his lower skeleton and width and his bone work, I like him a lot. He just had a small crash landing there. Young man that we have coming out next, that's a stout skulled bear that does have a groove and ditch down his back. I just want to see more fullness to his rib shape, maybe a little more fill to that rear flank down here. Just open up that center body, but there's a lot of good pieces and expression of muscle. Again, the bear we have rounding out the class, you don't know what to do with this guy because those are just huge feet and legs. I mean, those are creature feet and legs, and by his head look and his bone work, he reads to me to be older than the weight range that he's at, and so that throws a little bit of confusion. I think if this guy just blended straighter down his top line, he's one that you could sort up, but man, what a unique, interesting hog to round out the class. One more time. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Sterling Rolls is your first place exhibitor. Ryan Miller second. Levi Ludwig third. Fourth to Sarah Lamping. Fifth to Jane Lamping. Sixth to Bradley Worth. And seventh to Claire Neese.
energetic class of bears once again, and I think the two young ladies, dark collared hogs, are just the ones that surface to the top as my kind. And again, I know it's no flashy description, but the young lady who's going to win the class, that's the one that just puts the most positives together. I think he excels the second place hog just in that front end assembly. He's a notch taller in that shoulder, maybe just a little fresher and more correct as he comes out of the backside of his blade. When you get on top of him, he's got plenty of shape and he's square at the ground. Young lady did a great job getting that one presented. The young lady with the butterfly clips there in second, I think that's a close follow behind, because from his blade back, that guy's also a huge top, big hipped, really descriptive in terms of his muscle pattern. I think if we just make him a tick more attractive through his head and neck, then you can justify him to win. Right there's a great look of just a high quality bear that's sitting in second place. Young man's bear there in third. It's that hock down to the ground. And again, the hock is that joint in that hind leg. He wants to push and bow it outside of his skeleton. I think we bring that in, his center body, his mass, his chest floor, all of that I really like about him. Just want to fix that hind leg. Young man did a great job presenting this bear, and I know he's not as attractive, being a little more level-eared and maybe not as flashy as some of those on either side of him, but that's a growthy, productive type of a hog that's deep-bodied, has plenty of length of body and width, just the basic products to be a good market hog. Young man's done a nice job. Very athletic hog we have coming out next, another race car that wanted to sprint around the ring, and where that front foot leaves, the back foot follows. I just want to see more top shape and more muscle into that bear to sort him any higher. Young ladies hog we have coming out next, very similar situation. I just want to see a little more descriptive in his muscle pattern, maybe make him balanced from the profile, but that is a wide-chested, big, bold-ribbed bear, and same thing with the bear coming out next. That guy is deep-bodied and soggy in his build, and when you get off to the side of him, there's a lot of power there, but when you get on either side, he just maybe doesn't open up as well. But very athletic group of hogs. Let's give them a round of applause as they rodeo back out of here.
Elaney McGuire, your first place exhibitor. Second to Ava Kraus. Third to Caleb Simon. Fourth to Hunter Meyer. Fifth to Anna Eckstein. Sixth to Leslie Ludwig. And seventh to Kylie Weber. I don't know how many of you have heard, but Hunter Meyer has been through a whole lot in his young life. A first-year 4-H'er, would love to be in the show arena showing his pigs the first year. And our prayers are that next year we see Hunter in here following those pigs around. So Hunter, you're in our thoughts and prayers. Check, check.
I took too long and I broke it. Yeah, I tell you what, guys, this is a class. And again, it's another one that when you're on ringside, you want to sit here and cuss and discuss and analyze and talk about which way you want to go and what the proper way is. And as a judge, I can sit here and say, you know, I want to do it perfect, I want to do it right, and I want to please the most people. But then again, I've stood ringside a lot of times, and the judge went a different way than I thought. And I think this is one of the classes where that potential is there. And again, I'm strong enough to stand on my own feet and say, hey, if you like a hog different than I pick, you better tell one of these kids, because there are 3 rockin' good crossbred bears out here. One of them's gonna go third, one of them's gonna go second, and nobody loaded these hogs up to get second place at the county fair, because these guys are incredibly, incredibly good. This is a tough class. So I'm gonna analyze them and place them and sort them how in my gut I am most comfortable. The hog that wins the class maybe isn't the flashiest and maybe isn't the EST, but there's a lot to be said about a hog that can move. And I didn't drive them long to see who had more endurance, although it helps. I drove them long to see whose hind leg is genuinely the best. Because each of these hogs have something good about them, and each of them have something I want to change about them. My class winner has the most complete pieces. That's the young lady's bear right there. That's the hog who's built best in his hind leg structure. That's the best in the foot all the way to the ground. The one that's designed right up high in his upper skeleton and matches that down low. Is he the biggest back, flashiest necked hog? No. But is that hog built right at the ground and have enough muscle and power up high to match? You betcha. And that's the hog I like. When the young man's bear is going to be second here, comes out, or when he came out, I thought, my gosh, judges wait a lifetime for hogs to look like that. That front end extension, that chest floor, that back, all of it. But then you step off to the side and he's not right in that ham loin junction. And then you get off to the side and you see the angle and the curvature to that hind leg just has a little too much set and a little too much curvature, and so that throws off that hind leg. No wonder why he is the one who tuckered out the first. Just because, and right there's the view, that hind leg and that hock just kicks a little bit. But my golly, from his ham loin junction forward, I love that bear, and that young man needs to be commended. That's a high quality hog. I just wanted to see a better hind leg. If you're okay with that hind leg, that young man needs high fives on the way back, because that's an awfully, awfully good hog. When the young man brought this bear out at me, I thought, you get on top of him, he is fresh backed and square in his upper hip, and he is better in his hind leg in the way he comes down, and he's so square in that hock. And I love the way the build is. You step off to the side, he's the driest in his forerib, he's the highest in his flank. I don't know if he just didn't want to eat and fill while he was here, but that's a hog that just needed a little more groceries. But goodness, I think if that guy just has 5 more pounds in that lower portion of his belly, that guy wins for fun. That was a fun trio to sort through. Taking nothing away from the big, soggy made, high volume, big backed bear coming out next. I just need to make him cleaner in his head and neck, maybe just trim him up in his body condition, but that's a very nice power hog to be sitting into the 4th hole. Young man we have coming out next, a wide-skulled, stout-topped made bear that's very growthy and productive in his kind. He's just not as pretty as some of those above him. I'd like to give him a tick more bone in that front foot, make him a little prettier through his head and neck, but from his shoulder back, that's a growthy hog. And then the young lady's bear coming out next. Again, that other just productive type, he does have a little more bone at the ground. Just want to make him prettier and a little fresher in his type. Job well done, a very, very fun class. Let's give him a round of applause.
Kenzie Rolls, your first place exhibitor. Your second place, Clark Dwanger. Third, Sterling Rolls. Fourth, Caroline Neese. Fifth, Tim Eckstein. Sixth to Gracie Sturgeon.
even though I was a little quicker on this class, I think the top three all have quite a bit of good qualities about them, and then you narrow down between the top two, and there's some give and take. I wish the class winner Barrow just had a little more endurance in him, because that guy really is the squarest at the ground, the most genuine in the way that those feet set down square, and then you get on top of him, and he's big-backed and opened up in that middle section of his rib, and just want to see that guy with a little bit more endurance, and so get him some water before we turn around and come back for the lightweight drive. And that's where I like the young ladies' Barrow. Obviously, his mouth is closed, he's more extended about his head and neck and more attractive there from the profile standpoint of that front end. But when you get behind him, he wants to bow and push in that hock ever so slightly. That just happens to be a pet peeve of mine, and he's maybe not as full when you get right on top of him in that rib. For this weight range, probably not that big of a deal, but that was just a slight difference between the pair. Similar to the one above him, the Barrow, when you get right here behind him, he just pushes that hock and doesn't set those hind legs down as well, and is genuine from the ground. But that's a big back, certainly a big bootied Barrow that the young lady's done a great job getting that one driven. Tall-shouldered, long-bodied, really productive, growthy type of a hog coming in next. For me, he just maybe doesn't have that show ring, flashy look. Maybe like to firm him up there in his ham, but young man does a great job getting that really unique patterned one driven. And then the young lady's black Barrow rounding out the class. Another just soggy-bodied, thick-middled hog. Just want to see more muscle definition, a little more pop to that loin edge. Job well done. Let's give them all a big round of applause.
Damon Spear, your first place exhibitor. Sydney Rolls second. Michaela Cobbler third. Fourth to Henry Caney, and Cassie Franklin in fifth. Now we'll show for your champion lightweight crossbred.
Out here for champion lightweight, I think we have four Barrows that all fit the bill of what I like, and hopefully they kind of surface to the top in your guys' mind too. But again, I think there's one that just came out of a tough class and puts a lot of positives together. Young lady right here is going to have your champion lightweight.
Kenzie Rolls, your champion lightweight exhibitor.
I mean, we bring this Barrow back in, and gosh darn, does it make my heart hurt, because that guy is so cool. We just talked about the way that rear wheel sits down from behind, and you know, that's just a personal pet peeve of mine, but that's what we want him to look like. Young man there with second's going to follow up with reserve.
Clark Dwanger is your reserve champion lightweight crossbred.
top pair that we have here in our first middleweight class. And again, there's pros and cons to each of them, and things that you like and things that you want to change. And for me, I think it kind of boils down to the one that just has the look and has the design and has the attractive profile, and that's going to be the young lady's bear right here. I'm going to call it straight up. I wish he was wider chested, and I wish he was wider chested and had more fill through that center body. But what caps him the winner, when you get right on top of him, he's the most descript and fresh in his loin edge, and just carries that in a really attractive package. If you want to use the young man's bear here in second, fine by me. He is a little wider at the ground when he goes away, maybe a little fuller in that rear, or in that foreflank and rear flank, but then he's just a little plainer on the top side of his skeleton, maybe not as stout in terms of his bone work, but he certainly has all the right pieces to put a high quality package and product together. Interesting hog, and I told the young lady when he came out, you brought me a thick one, and that's certainly what he is. You can say wide, stout, bold, thick, he's all of those things. He just doesn't handle it as well on the move. He's got a little fat pocket there in his flank and just pushes that hawk out. I think if that guy was maybe just bigger in his frame size, he'd handle all of that a little better. Productive hog coming out next, super wide chested and bold in his forearm, and it's that lower power that I love about him. But then you get up on top of him and he's just not as descript in that muscle pattern as some of those above him, but I love that bone work and that chest width. The young man we have coming out next is another one, again, at the ground, has some feature, has some product and power, just doesn't balance up from the side as well. He wants to get a little roller coastery down his top line. I think if he was a tick taller shoulder, all of that power and that mass would blend really nicely. And then the young lady here with a cute hairstyle rounding out the class, again, definitely takes a long stride off of both ends, just doesn't have as much power, enough muscle for me today. Let's give them a big round of applause as they head back.
Sophie Rolls is your first place exhibitor, Maxwell Franklin second, third to Michaela Cobbler, fourth to Jackie Firkinoff, fifth to Levi Ludwig, and Callie Kummer in sixth.
You know what? As a judge, you got to make a lot of tough decisions, and that's where I think this class really boils down to, because the bear that I want to win the class does not want to win the class. He is doing everything possible to give this young lady fits, but you know, it's tough. As a judge, you want to pick the hog that is out here, that's, you know, definitely has the endurance build up at home and gets out and goes. And you're trying to decide, is it structure? Is it attitude? And so when you go back and forth and you're just trying to make a genuine decision and then realize that we got a division drive after this to continue on to, and where are we going to sit and fit, it makes for a very tough decision. And so right off the bat, initially my gut, I want to use the blue bear. I think he has all the right pieces in the best package, but when he won't give it to you, it's very hard as a judge to say, hey, he is perfect structured, when I can't see a good, you know, walk across the ring. And so then I start studying, and I think it's mostly from stress, where he is just taking that hind leg and starting to push that hawk. And so there's back and forth and what you're going to do and which way you're going to go. And unfortunately, I think he just simply tuckered himself out and took himself out of contention comparatively, because he just pushed it just a tick too hard. And for that, the young man's black bear wins the class for me, and I think it's that look right there. I mean, there's a lot to be said about a hog that keeps motoring. Is he the most full and as opened up as the bear that ends up in second? No. You guys know genuinely exactly where my mind sits on that. But a hog that gets out and goes, takes a length of stride, he's taller shouldered, he's better in his front shoulder, and probably why he withstands the drive, that hog's going to win the class. And I hate putting a hog in second that I want to use to win, but reality is when push comes to shove, they gotta be part of the team as well. The young man here in third, and I hate putting this hog in third, and part of it is when you have a showman who wants it, you'll want to have them at the top of the class, but the bear's too moderate in his package. He's too low to the ground for as much bulk and power that he has. I'd just like to see him more elevated through that front end, but man, what a center body and rib cage that guy has in him. You know, another bear that was tough to see because he was just sporting around the ring, and when you really start to study him, I like his fresh back and how expressive he is on the backside of his blade. But again, when you start to study him, he's maybe, even though he sprints and goes fast, he's not as perfect in the front angle of that shoulder, wants to toe in just a little bit. I think if we reassemble that shoulder, I think this guy then flip-flops and moves up to the third hole. A big, stout power hog coming out next, and another one that you like in just terms of robustness and stoutness. For me, maybe not as pretty. He's a little chunkier through that head and neck, a little rounder and steeper in that rib, in his hip, but young man did a nice job handling that one. And then our handsome showman coming out next, really fresh, attractive, youthful made bear. Just want to see more muscle definition over his backside. Job well done, really intriguing top pair.
Lane Simon, your first place exhibitor. Sophie Rolls in second. Garrett Whitty in third. Fourth, Ashton Ginling. Fifth, Blake Miller, and sixth, Parker Bauman.
nice class at Crossbred Bears, but the young man who wins the class, he just hit me the hardest when he came out. Again, we're just checking off all those boxes, and he's wide in his lower skeleton. He's got plenty of mass up high, and I do think the young lady's bear in second gives him a run for his money, but this guy's just built better at the top of his shoulder, just a little more correct in the angle of that blade. I know he's wanting to kind of squeal and be ornery out here, but all the pieces put together for him. From this guy's shoulder back, I love this bear. As he goes away, he is so dense and powerful in that hind leg and stout in his upper hip and expressive in his back shape. He's just a little uglier headed and maybe a notch lower fronted and wants to toss those front toes in a little bit. That's getting really picky on a bear that from that blade back, that is the right kind. Job well done to that young lady. I love the hog here in third. There's nothing overly wrong with him. That's a growthy, big, stout May type of a bear, but just like the one above him, maybe just want to see that front end a little more correct in his blade, maybe open him up in his chest floor compared to how big he is up high. But again, from his back, hip, and rear leg standpoint, that's definitely a power hog and the right kind. A good showman we have coming out next with a bear that, quite frankly, just needs cleaned up there behind his sheath. He's got a little extra wastiness there, maybe just not as much substance as those above him, but that's a long-bodied, big upper rib shape to a bear that puts a lot of positive pieces in his square and his lower build. Interesting hog coming out next. From the profile, I think there's a lot of good to this hog. I think he's long-bodied. I think he's long-hipped. I think he's deep-bodied. But he's just a little wastier and uglier in that head and neck, and maybe just not, again, as wide at the ground as he is up high. But again, from the profile, that guy bounces up awfully nice. And then the blue bear we round out the class with, certainly not because of width or muscle or any of the power above, because he certainly is a wide-chested, big-made hog. It's those hind legs. He's just not comfortable enough. He just doesn't go well enough on those hind two. Job well done. Very tough class. Let's give him a round of applause.
Carson Nobby, your first place exhibitor. Allison Buchanan is in second. Blake Miller third. Noah Kraus fourth. Fifth place goes to Luke Hendren and Lillian Eckstein in sixth. Now we'll show for your champion medium weight crossbred.
We get out here for champion middleweight, and I think that there's a hog that just looks different. Sometimes different is bad, but in this scenario for me, different is good. I like the young man's bear right here in front of me to be your champion.
Carson Nobby is your champion medium weight crossbred exhibitor.
You know, again, there's some decisions to be made because the other two class-winning bears have such a great look from the side and maybe are a little more attractive in the height of their shoulder. Both of these are actually pretty similar in their type and kind. I just don't know if they have enough for me today. I liked that bear an awful lot in class. His hind leg and that durability and that look as he goes away from you. I would like to, you know, clean him up in that front end, and that's kind of the decision. But for me, I'm going to pack him with power. Young lady, second place, follows up for reserve.
Allison Buchanan. exhibits your reserve champion. Brantley Weber, your first place exhibitor. LCP second. Laura Lobster third. Nathaniel Krause fourth. Bentley Earl fifth. And Henry Cummer sixth.
Great set of bears that we have out here, and I like the young lady's bear that wins the class pretty easily. I wish he didn't sprint off out of the gate and kind of get himself winded, because I think he's really good in terms of his structural build, and he just offers more density of bone and foot size when you really get down to the ground. You get on top of him, and he's expressive down his top shape. He's taller at the point of his shoulder. He needs just a quick breather there from his marathon sprint, but young lady did a great job getting that one exhibited. Young man's bear here in second. I think it's a close decision, because when you're on top of that guy, he is big backed and bold in his rib shape, but maybe doesn't match it at the ground as much as you'd like. He gets just a tick frailer in that ankle and foot of him, and maybe just sets that hind leg a tick far out when you get right behind him. That's being nitpicky on an absolute powerhouse, robust, center-bodied one. Young ladies Berkshire that we have out here, again, high quality, good livestock, ugly headed. That's why he goes third. That guy is big backed and stout hipped and big boned. Just want to make him prettier through that head and neck and front end. The young man's Black Hog that will be coming out next. Definitely an athletic, big outline, cast a big shadow type of a bear. Just want to see more genuine width all the way through. Pull him apart at his blade, give him just a little more pop of muscle shape. Similar story with the young man's White Pig here. Just want to see him with a little more genuine muscle shape, but that's definitely a deep-bodied, soggy-centered Barrow. Job well done. Let's give all of them a big round of applause.
Kenzie Rolls, your first place exhibitor. Jackson Weber second. Maddie Weber third. Fourth, Cody Franklin. And fifth, Braden Guerin.
Hey guys, he's in the ring right here. That is one bad bear. I tell you what, that's the guy I've been waiting for. He gives me chills. When he came out and I saw his head and neck extension and his height, his shoulder, but yet he was filled out in his back and his rib shape, I stepped behind, was just thinking, please have a square hock, please have a square hock. And he did, and I like that guy an awful lot. Great job with that one, young man. Taking nothing away, because the young man here in second, when he came out, I'm like, yep, bone check, rib check, back hip check. He just got out-styled today is all. He just didn't have this pretty of a head and neck, but that's an awfully stinking good bear that would win a lot of classes. Just ran into a buzzsaw. Young lady here that's going to go in third. He's tall-shouldered and long-bodied, really extended and fresh. Again, just want to see more product packed in his loin edge. Want to see him balance better over this top line. And I really want to appreciate the young man there in fourth today. He's had a tough day as far as placings, but keeps coming back, and I appreciate that. We got to fix the hind legs of his bear. That's why he goes into fourth, but that's a wide-topped, big-ribbed hog. Job well done to those exhibitors. That was a super fun class. Let's give them a round of applause.
Abram Spear, your first place exhibitor. Austin Rolls in second. Third, Callie Comer, and fourth, Henry Comer.
What a great class to round out the show with here today. I think we have two high-quality bears. That's some give and take. For me, I like the young lady's black bear. I think he's just a little fresher in his kind, better built and assembled through that front end and shoulder. I know he's wanting to kind of get a little NASCAR action out here, but when he gets out and goes, he can just move, but yet have the most muscle shape down his top and through his hip. Really nice made bear to round out our show here today. I like the red bear that's here in second. I think this guy is wide-backed and big in his center body. He's maybe just not as toned in his muscle definition compared to the one that beats him, but that hind leg set and square build is awfully, awfully nice. Just like to maybe pretty him up through his head and neck. Big comments and praises for the young man here in third. I think you did a tremendous job getting that one driven. Need to just see more total product in that one, but that's a soggy-bodied, big-bellied bear that you've done a great job getting that one shown. High-performing hog. Again, these hogs, if you are struggling getting yours to grow, these guys are the ones to talk to. Big outlined hog, just maybe it's not as full, and like to see this one with more muscle shape. Same thing with the one coming out next. This one's a big outlined hog, maybe doesn't balance as nice from the profile, but that's a deep-bodied, obviously very athletic, very spunky type of a bear. And then the young man rounding out the class. That one, when you get right behind him, he's just not as wide in his lower skeleton, but does have some width up high. Job well done to all of these showmen. Let's give them one big round of applause.
Laura Moster, your first place exhibitor. Elsie Caney, second. Third, Elijah Eckstein. Fourth, Alina Hicks. Fifth, the Caroline Toops. And sixth, Chase Hicks. Now a show for your heavyweight crossbred.
I don't want to waste any time out here because I think it's pretty obvious which one I like, and it doesn't take long to find the fun ones, the good hogs. This guy trips my trigger. He'll be your champion heavyweight.
Abram Spear exhibits your champion heavyweight crossbred.
You bring the second place bear out here, and I think he fits in terms of back and bone, but there's another one that's just as a more complete, more total package. He's given her some fits, but the young lady here with the braid, she's going to follow up and be a reserve.
Kenzie Rolls is your reserve champion. Okay, looks like we're ready for your grand champion drive. Exhibiting your lightweight crossbred champion is Kenzie Rolls from Napoleon, Indiana. Your middleweight crossbred exhibited by Carson Nobby, Batesville, Indiana. Your heavyweight crossbred exhibited by Abram Spear, Holton, Indiana. Your Yorkshire champion exhibited by Damon Spear, Holton, Indiana. Your Tamworth champion exhibited by Keaton Miller, Versailles, Indiana. Your Duroc champion exhibited by Chase Nobby, Batesville, Indiana. Is that to Hamp? Your Hampshire by Garrett Whitty, Sunman, Indiana.
Just take them down and take them slow.
Your spot exhibited by Abram Spear, Holton, Indiana. All I can see is people, no pig. Your Berkshire champion, Abram Spear, Holton, Indiana. Your Hereford champion, Damon Spear, Holton, Indiana. And your Poland champion, Briar Mere, Greensburg, Indiana.
I know what I'm going to do so you don't have to keep driving the hogs as hard as if you don't want to, but I just wanted to say a few things before we select your champion, Barrow overall here at the Ripley County Fair. First of all, these kids are great. I tell you what, I go all over the country judging, and very few times do I have kids who I put last place over and over who shake my hand and say thank you. Regardless of what these hogs did today and how they sort out today, I am a firm believer you have some of the most respectful, polite, and well-rounded kids in this ring. Let's give them a huge round of applause. I also really want to thank the staff that I've had today. This show has gone quick and efficiently because I have had the best ring crew throughout the Gilt and Barrow show. I've had the best queen staff and the best people up at the desk, and I'm sure there's people in the back that I didn't notice what they were doing. Let's give a big round of applause for the people who put this together today. You know, a lot of us try to get here, and there's only so many spots and to fill, and I know a lot of you guys might not be here and think you should have been here, and there's some of you guys who dream to be here. I want to give you a little bit of advice on how to get here. Number one, either raise your own hogs or buy from a trusted breeder. Find yourself a high-quality feed product and work your tail off at home. Sometimes champions are made in terms of work ethic and hours spent in the barn, way more so than how much money you spend or what feed you buy. The kids who are consistently successful, they're walking their pigs 2 times a day starting in March and April. The kids who are successful go to jackpot shows. I recommend you show at least 2 shows before county fair. They're all over Indiana. They started April 16th. Jackpot shows started this year. Me and my son, we went to 6 jackpot shows before we went to 2 national shows. You gotta get to them. And if this isn't your priority in baseball or sports, is your priority, that's fair. But just know your competition, they're headed to those shows and they're perfecting their skill and their talent. And it's no fancy advice. It's nothing flowery. It's just you got to outwork the rest. You got to get in the barn and you got to go to some open shows and you got to learn. The best way, you don't show up to county tourney and expect to win the basketball title if you have not started practicing in October. Basketball starts in October, county tourneys, in the following year. Same situation here. Got to get those hogs out and get them ready to go because that's how we make champions. That's how we get better. And when we start talking about these hogs, there's a lot of good ones, but there was one who literally made me jump for joy. He is the Barrow I have been waiting for all day. I don't care that he doesn't want to drive. His body, his build, everything about him is good. He gives me goosebumps. Young man's heavyweight crossbred is your grand champion, Barrow.
Abram Spear is your grand champion. That is also your grand champion homegrown.
When we get out here for reserve, I think there's a lot of hogs that actually fit in contention. We have the young man's Duroc bear that we kind of talked about. Wish he was a little fresher fronted, but man, from his shoulder back, that guy is an animal. We have the Yorkshire bear that was just a beast in there. He's wanting to get just a little tired and a little tuckered out here, but young man's pushed him really hard, and I think that guy has a lot of power, impactful pieces, and breed for breed, he fits a lot of standards, and I just love so many things about him. We have the young man's crossbred right there that came out of the middle division that was just different in that drive, who just has so much bulk and build, and I think that those 3 bears all fit really well and similar into the same kind of type and kind and mold. When it gets down to it, if there's a purebred that's just as good as the crossbred, you kind of got to grab a hold and take him. And again, even though he's getting tuckered out, I really liked him in division. Young man's Yorkshire bear is going to follow up as reserve.
Damon Spear exhibits your reserve grand champion with the Yorkshire Barrow. We'll need to show for reserve grand champion homegrown.
you know, a lot needs to be commended when we are considering the homegrown factor and utilizing breeders and working within your own county. I think is something exceptional, and how many champions came out of just this county is really, really neat. And those breeders need to be commended, and the showmen need to be commended for keeping their money inside Ripley County and keep things going. I think there's a bear out here that was very close for reserve grand, and in fact, as they were heading back, I said, young man, if there was a third overall, it'd be you. That's the young man's middleweight crossbred bear. He's going to have your reserve champion homegrown.
Carson Nobby is your reserve grand champion homegrown. Hey girls, now the 4-H'er, both sides of his cheek. I want him red. We're going to take about a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back for junior showmanship.